The so-called glory effect initiated by the sensational Korean drama The Glory continues, shedding light on rampant school violence across Korea and calling on regulation changes. Now, on top of this, a bullying story surrounding a high-ranking government official's son sparked outrage within the country, prompting the official to resign just a day after his nomination. Public awareness on the seriousness of school violence has certainly risen to a level not seen before, but is enough being done to rectify the situation? What kind of regulations and special laws are in place to help eradicate school bullying, and are they, in fact, effective? For some much-needed answers, we're joined by Dr. Song Se-ryun, a professor of law at Kyunghee University. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, Dr. Song.
Good morning.
Have you seen this TV drama?
Well, bits of it.
Bits of it. I mean, it's been the talk of the town since, of course, the recent second half was unveiled. And maybe befittingly, we're revisiting the current laws in South Korea, where the shortcomings are and what we can do about it to make it more sturdy for those who are victims of school violence. So apparently Korea introduced a special act on school violence prevention in 2004, enforcing legal measures to tackle school violence for the first time. Over the past 20 years, the law was revised nearly 30 times, aiming to better protect the victim. But just the fact that they had to tweak it 30 times tells me maybe the initial groundwork was just not sturdy. Can you walk us through the major revisions and where the current laws stand as we speak?
Right. Even before that law, there was a Youth Protection Act in the 1990s, and there were many different government policies. So this is a big problem. And as you mentioned, that there have been major revisions to reflect new and current forms of violence, strengthen the victim protection, and also to institutionalize how to deal with the procedures side of it. So, for example, over the years, the act included the sexual violence, bullying, and forced errands, or as what we call shuttle, right? And also organized dedicated units and the committees. First, that was placed in the school, within the school, but later at the Office of Education. So it's been shifted around. And at some point, the police officer got involved in the institutionalized proceedings to strengthen the protection and assistance for the victims. And the counseling measures have been added, and there have been revisions about the preventive measures. And for the perpetrating students, counseling, separation, and degree of preventive measures have been strengthened over the years. And the legal side of it, after the administrative hearing at the Office of Education, have been added so that it could be reviewed judicially as well. So, as you said, this is a constant effort over the years to make the problem manageable and also solve the school violence problem. But the statistics do not really reflect the fruits of their efforts. In fact, the school violence still happen at the alarming rate, and we do see the students keep making drastic and unfortunate choices even. So I think this is an ongoing problem that we have not really cracked the problem.
And since 2004, I think it's safe for me to say that the usage of smartphones has changed the types of bullying. Cyberbullying is something that's inherently more difficult if you think about privacy and the right to privacy, even for students, of course. Now, I want to talk about one of the revisions that was made in the last 20 or so years. One of the revisions was to transfer the school violation deliberation authorities from the schools itself to regional education offices. This means schools may independently settle minor cases, but in the cases of more serious bullying, they have been sent to the education office's School Violence Deliberation Committee for dispute resolution. It's been 3 years since the revision was enforced. First and foremost, what was the intended aim of this revision, and is this new system working well?
Well, the intention was, I think, honorable and pretty good, because having the school take care of the bulk of the investigation and procedure had a lot of drawbacks, like the schools sometimes are not impartial. They lack expertise for investigation. And there have been some general tendencies to hide or minimize the impact of the matter. So it seems like we needed more institutionalized, more expertise handling of this. So that's why it went to the Office of Education. But the problem, again, at that level is that there's a huge backlog of cases. So it takes months to get to the problem. So it seems like there's an unintended consequence of creating a limbo where school's not doing anything and the Office of Education is not doing anything. So the students end up suffering at that limbo stage.
Right.
I think the more fundamental problem is that because this happens, the school violence happens in the classroom and the educational scene, that not involving the teachers are not really the best ideas. They are the ones who know the situation best, students, and they are the one out there to make the education happen.
Right.
So enervating teachers in this particular instance probably is understandable at some level, but in the end, it's not really the best solution.
Because it also comes into question weakened teacher authority. If they're the ones that are meeting these students on a day-to-day basis, who can intervene on a day-to-day level? That comes into question too. So maybe going forward, it's not one or the other, but a collaboration. Now, the logistics around that is something that we have to work out. Here's something else. Chung Soon-shin, who was nominated as a chief of the National Investigation Office, gave up the position after it was revealed that his son was a high school bully. I think it was more about his defense of his son. Now, but his son entered one of the most prestigious colleges in Korea. This raises questions about the current level of punishment on school bullying. What are some of the big loopholes of the current punishments that enable Chung-sun to, in short, get away with his bullying past?
Right. The report said that his son received one of the highest levels of measures. We cannot say it's a punishment because it's an administrative level handling, but it was at the time the level of to the expulsion or the transfer to other schools, which is the most severe level of measures. And even so, there was a constant effort on the part of Chung Soon-sil to defend his actions, making a lot of requests to review the decisions, and also going to the administrative court and appealing the decisions and so on and so forth. So it seems like there was also a deliberate delaying tactic, as well as making this matter more of a lawsuit kind of environment rather than the educational thing. And also the loophole that we talk about is that he, as you said, he entered the most prestigious school in the country, even with that kind of record. And the loophole at this point is that the regular admission procedure, the school sometimes do not really consider, although they can consider the school records as such. They just rely on the scores of their standardized test. So those should be reviewed and made some corrections, because the entrance exam is the most important matter for the students, and that has to take into account not only the scores but how he was as a student and as a human being.
Okay, so that permanent record should have more grounds when being considered for college admissions. So that seems to be an important talking point. The Education Ministry is now seeking to extend the period of keeping school violence records from the current 2 years on record to, I believe, 10, so that the school bullying can be reflected in the college admissions process. A bill has been proposed at the National Assembly. So what are your thoughts on this, Dr. Song? Could a more permanent school record deter school bullying?
I think it has its merits in that the negative consequences should be more pronounced. and affect the most important decisions in the student's career, college entrances, and so on and so forth. But we have to balance that with the fact that, as we're talking about, it is an educational process for a lot of people, especially for elementary school and middle school students. What happens, the school ground is also something that they need to learn from. So just being tough on the school violence sometimes miss the mark that they don't learn or they don't really grow as a person. So I think it's a very tough question because for the victims and the parents, it's very traumatic. But at the same time, it is an education that we have to be mindful of.
Dr. Song, because you brought up the victims, based on surveys, interviews, and even with the recent success of a TV drama, The Glory, the writer of the series have repeatedly said it appears that a sincere apology from the assailant is what the victims desire the most, but in fact it is quite rare. Instead, many of them tend to take the case to court, disobey the education office's dispute settlement, and various reports show that in many cases, it's the perpetrators, not the victims, who end up winning the lawsuit. I'm not quite sure what that says about precedents. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, you know, what lawyers advise once a legal proceeding starts is to say or admit nothing. Apology can be deemed an admission of culpability, so it's a big no. So the truth of the matter is that once it gets into the legal arena, it's a different ball game, and it's no longer about the students or apologies and those kind of things. It's everything that's said and done is evidence and can be used against you in a court of law. So I think that the subjecting the students, not only the perpetrating students or the victims, to this process in and of itself is also another level of trauma. So it goes back to the question of, well, what kind of measures do we have? Do we really have to go straight to the legal arena when it's much more about the education and much more about what the students can learn from the school ground?
Dr. Song, The Glory was satisfying because it is a revenge drama. The victim takes matters into her own hand and she fights back without technically getting blood on her own hands. So that's why it was perhaps satisfying for the viewers. But in reality, that couldn't be more far removed from what experts and pundits would want out of a situation like such. Then what kind of legal efforts and measures do you think more specifically will help in reducing serious school bullying?
Yeah, the drama is an indictment of the current system that we have. The current system cannot be trusted. It cannot satisfy you in those kind of situations. So you got to take the matter in your hand. That's a terrible message, but if that's the reality, then we have to really fix it. And the fixing, I think, just starts from the smart mix of having a legal procedure, but at the same time getting the teachers involved and parents involved in a very constructive way. We have not found the happy medium or the measures or the methods to make that happen. I think it's a very sophisticated problem. It's becoming more psychological, and the more creative ways of bullying are found on a daily basis. So I think that it requires a lot of research, but at the same time, the known measures are out there that we are not using. For example, we need more counseling, and we need more counselors at the scene. Although it's mandated by law, there's a general lack of, very shortage of those competent counselors at the scene to deal with mounting problem.
Okay. We understand. I mean, there's enough evidence that counseling is helpful and it's required. And as you've said, stipulated by law, but there's not enough personnel. That's a good place to start. As you've said, it's a sophisticated problem, which is why we have to be responsible citizens and keep tabs on it. Dr. Song, thank you very much for your insights. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you're listening to our program using the podcast service, just a reminder that we do go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Korea Standard Time. So tune in and help us make the show more informative by giving us your input. See you bright and early on Good Morning Seoul.